Thanks for joining us on our comic book coffee break. I'm Nick Gunning.
Jeez, I'm Eric Mickles, also known online as Dusk versus Tweak, and I wish I had some coffee to lend you. Give you
No, I've
give you
got a,
double
you know what,
cups.
today, because I've got a little bit of a scratchy throat, and so I made some tea, and it's a sugar plum spice tea
What?
that I'm drinking out of this cup. This novelty mug that my sister-in-law got me when I was turning 30 that says I will be 29 until further notice.
Yeah,
You know how it is.
yeah, I get it. I'm just like 34. I'd rather just complain
Yeah,
about being old and
yeah,
be like, no, I
yeah.
could not convince anyone that I'm 27. I don't think so.
I think if you really, really committed to it.
I'd have to shave because as soon as
Yeah.
any hair grows, there's white all over the beard
Oh,
now. In fact, some of the
yeah.
stubble is gray. It's fine. Should I start dyeing
Yeah.
my facial hair?
No. No, you can always tell. You can
What if I
always
what
tell.
if I dyed my hair and my facial hair blonde, but I left my
Yeah.
eyebrows dark? Like
Yeah.
Thor.
Yeah.
No, it's the other
No,
way
no
around.
judgment with this question, but do you think that are you going to be a guy who like keeps some color in his hair
I
when
don't
you get
know.
old?
I guess
You
we'll
just going to
see.
go white?
Oh,
Okay.
you mean like will I dye it as I get older? No, I
Yeah, you
won't
will you
dye it. I
die.
don't I
You won't
don't
die.
boost it or anything. I'm not gonna start bringing
Yeah.
dye into the equation. Then it'll be like running down my head. I'll look like certain lawyers.
Yeah. My grandpa kept his hair dark
Mm.
always,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked pretty good.
All right.
That's all I'm saying.
All right.
I don't think I would, but he pulled it off nicely, so
Mm-hmm.
who knows,
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway,
You should go
this
red.
show and this concept on aging is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network.
Yep. You can find more about this show and us like it at the network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. You don't have to worry about aging over there because a lot of the shows are very 90s focused.
That's true.
So we'll keep you young.
That is true.
You got
Yep,
the 90s music, 90210, which is what? You're in 94 right now?
almost. We're
Yeah.
in 93 still.
Oh,
Yeah,
still 93? Holy
yeah,
crap. So
yeah,
93, and then previously on X-Men usually covers
yeah.
the 90s X-Men cartoon. So we're always...
Oh, and about that, I have to say, your most recent episode, what was that? What were those? Repo Man and
Repo Man and
something
Externally
else?
Yours.
Those were like, I think those were the best. That was the best episode of the whole series. It was just
Wow.
that was so much fun.
Wow.
That episode.
All right.
You guys were just like riffing, and it was very funny.
That's good to know. The next one is going to be on Sentinels. I've spent most of yesterday.
That won't be the best.
I spent
Nope.
yesterday writing up a whole history on the Sentinels. Kind
Wow.
of a focused history, and
Yeah.
it was a thing. Kendra was trying to talk to me. I was kind of grumpy because I'm like looking at multiple things. I look like I'm trying to just figure out who the not Jericho
Yeah.
killer. Who was the killer that we? No, not Nomad. Why am I thinking of what was the killer?
I don't
From
know.
California.
I don't know. Yeah.
Zodiac.
I don't know.
It's
Zodiac
like I was
Killer.
trying to
Okay.
form the Zodiac Killer, but
Oh,
I'm
I
like,
see.
okay, so this master
Yeah.
mold is
Yeah.
connected to
Okay.
this master mold,
Okay.
and this master mold has this. Mother mold makes master
Yeah.
molds, and Mark Sentinel 1 through 7 are made. Okay.
If this is a taste of that episode, that's going to be a long listen.
No, it'll
Let
be
me
fine.
tell you.
It'll be fine.
Okay. Let's talk comic books, Eric.
I was talking the Sentinels.
Okay.
Actually, I still need to read something about the Sentinels. Did you ever read? It was in a digest. I guess we'll talk about it when I actually read it. There was a Sentinel digest about a boy that finds like a broken down Sentinel and kind of like keeps him in his backyard.
Oh, boy, that sounds
It
familiar.
was just called Sentinel. It
Huh.
had kind of that. I think it was in those mini digest things. I think it kind of had
Yeah.
that manga look. All right. Well, I have to
need
read
look
that.
that up because I feel like I did read that.
Yeah.
I feel like I did read that.
All right, I gotta read that.
But I read a variety of things today. So I'm gonna start out with one that has a sad tinge. As you pointed out on the previously on X-Men Twitter, which is where I learned of this news, Eric Jerome Dickey passed away at the age of 59 from cancer,
Uh-huh.
and his I have a little mini obit here from Variety. During his multi-decade career, the New York Times bestselling author wrote 29 novels that explored contemporary Black American life from different angles. Some of his best-known novels include Milk in My Coffee, Cheaters, Chasing Destiny, Liar's Game, and Sister Sister. He was also nominated for several NAACP Image Awards, and his graphic novel, Storm, won a Glyph Comics Fan Award. And I read Storm over the week, and I had never read that before. Have you read this one?
The Storm Black Panther
Yeah.
retcon? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
I
read it
couldn't remember if that was one.
when we did the Storm spotlight
Yeah.
over on Previously on X-Men.
I
So
thought you did. I knew there was a couple though, and I wasn't sure if this was
yeah,
one
that
of
was
them.
the one that
I
kind of
enjoyed it.
like really started making me think like, what is continuity anymore?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Well, Eric Jerome Dickey was kind of known for his like the chemistry of his characters, and he was not afraid of some steaminess. And I felt like he really brought like a real relationship between Storm and
yeah,
Black Panther in
very
this
steamy.
in this graphic novel. It really was. So I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty successful telling of that story.
Yeah.
I think all I've read is maybe the original story that was collected in the Black Panther like epic collections, like that sort of one issue where they meet. So
Oh
I hadn't
yeah,
really,
yeah, the Marvel Team Up or Comics Presents or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah. So I'd read that,
Hmm.
but I'd never read anything really where they're like together. So
Yeah.
this was the first time, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Did you enjoy it when you read it?
Uh, yeah, I thought it was well done. I didn't necessarily love some of the stuff about Storm in it. And it did just spawn this whole like, does continuity matter? Should
Yeah.
continuity matter? Why do I care? Do I care? So,
Well, Storm is, I mean, she's kind of a passive character in it
yeah.
in some
Yeah.
ways. So, but still,
Yeah.
I never read it before, and I enjoyed reading
that was
it.
a big
So.
deal when it came out in 2006. Made a lot of
Hmm.
press. It was basically like what led to the marriage of Storm and Black Panther.
Okay.
So, well, not what led,
All right.
but they did it to bridge to bridge the lack of relationship those two characters had in like
Okay.
in the regular comic line. Like they just never
Mhm.
interacted, so they had to do a little retconning so that they could uh, make that relationship seem plausible. So he kind of had a
Yeah.
lot of. He basically had like what was that? Almost like 30 years of legwork to do, or maybe like 20,
Yeah.
but at that time, yeah, he was basically trying to put 20 years of a relationship into 6 issues so that they could do
Yeah.
this thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a tight 6 issues, though. I mean, it really you do feel like the relationship develops in a believable and natural way. So I thought it was well done.
I find that as long as I do a few sit-ups and I do some Just Dance a little bit, I can also keep it a tight 6 issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I could have sworn you were 27.
Thank you. All right. Well,
What's on your list?
I read. So I finished Garth Ennis's Hellblazer run. So that's
Okay.
volume 8 of. So that takes you to issue 83 of
Okay.
Hellblazer. So this is him basically like escaping from the devil again and really getting rid of his cancer. A whole bunch of different stories. Garth Ennis just tying up loose ends that he was building up to. It was good. It was probably. I mean, there are stuff that I like by Garth Ennis. Obviously, his Punisher run, but usually like stuff like The Boys and Preacher, I'm just like, no, thank you, not my cup of tea. Which you're drinking? You're drinking a cup of tea.
I am. This is my cup of tea, though.
Yeah. But it's good. Oh, I have to tell you, I think it's this issue or this volume, or
Okay.
maybe it was last volume. In the beginning of the book, he's going on this like witch walk that
Okay.
I don't want to say Dr. Midnight. What was his name? Something Midnight. Anyway, Midnight. Papa Midnight is sending Constantine on this witch walk out of his control and everything and like trying to trap him.
Okay.
And Constantine runs into JFK
Oh.
at like a dead JFK and everything, and they're just talking and whatnot. And so I read this, and that night, and you should know, I don't know a lot about like the Jack Ruby and Lee
Okay.
Harvey Oswald stuff. So I
Yeah.
got online to just look at stuff because they talked about JFK had a back brace.
Yeah.
And it might have been the thing that actually got him killed because the second bullet he wasn't able to duck because of the back brace.
Oh, I see.
So I was like looking that up and stuff, and then I got into this other stuff, and they're talking about Jack Ruby, and so I was like, "What? I don't know any of these people." So I put my phone down. I went to sleep. That night, I had a dream. I was being chased by Jack Ruby,
Mm.
and
Wow.
I just was like, "What the crap?" And so the next night, after reading more Constantine, I had a dream that I was down in like a basement in the dark, like hiding, and I had like
Okay.
glyphs on the staircase, and I'm like going down the stairs looking, and I'm like trying to get over this fence, but my leg is caught, so I'm kind of like hanging upside
Right.
down, and then I hear this like small demon child just like jump from the stairs and land on the basement, and I
Jeez.
can't see anything. And I
Wow.
just know they're there, so now I'm like trying to run, and I wake up like terrified. So I've stopped reading Hellblazer before bed.
That's a good. Yeah.
I'm
That's
tired of
probably
being chased
wise.
by demon children and Jack Ruby.
And Jack Ruby. Yep.
So anyway, but I like
Oh,
it.
okay.
Um, I then started the next volume, which is called Critical Mass. So that's taking
Okay.
me through 84. Oh no, I finished it. So I'm reading volume 10 right now. So
Good
I've
for
read up
you.
to issues 96. So 200 more issues to go.
Hmm.
This is a few guest writers at the beginning, and then Paul Jenkins comes in. And it seems like online, not a lot of people like Paul Jenkins' run, so it does kind of seem a bit. I don't know. It's not as intense or as stylistic as
Okay.
Garth Ennis's, and he doesn't have Steve Dilling doing some of that art. Um, and I feel like it's tough to write Hellblazer because you're just following up all these like runs that people do that
Yeah.
tend to be kind of iconic. But I like Paul
Hmm.
Jenkins like other stuff. I like his Hulk run. I like his Spider-Man stuff. He's done a lot of stuff I like. So I wasn't blown away by his first entry, so I'm hoping he kind of has like a long game ahead of him. But
Okay.
I don't know. I hear volume 10 is kind of like just single issue stories throughout. So maybe he does it.
I've read very very little of his stuff. I think Wolverine Origin is about the only thing that I've read by Paul
Yeah.
Jenkins.
He wrote the first, or he didn't write the second one, but he wrote the first
No.
Origins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he did a little. He did a little in the X-Men Schism stuff. He wrote like the Prelude and stuff.
yeah.
But I'm not super familiar with him.
I think he was writing. I don't. He was writing Spider-Man either right before Straczynski or
Okay.
concurrent. I can't totally
Okay.
remember,
All
but
right.
his stories are kind of a bit goofy. He wrote like a Spider-Man one with Doc Ock and then Venom, and
Okay.
what was the one that he wrote? Give me a second. No, just go ahead.
Okay.
He wrote like a Goblin story, like the Return of the Goblin. I think
Okay.
it's called.
Okay.
Anyway.
So for my birthday, I got the Superman Returns shooting script, which I'd never like actually sat down and read before.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna read it, and then my wife and I was just like, let's just watch it. And so like we watched Superman Returns while I was like reading the script, which was kind of interesting because the script is pretty close to what you see. I mean, a lot of it is just resequenced, like things are just happening in different orders. The main difference I feel like from the script to the screen was that it begins with him actually like exploring Kryptonian ruins, like out in
like at the
space.
beginning. Yeah, that was. Did they not film that either?
I've never seen footage of that.
Okay.
I've seen like some images of him in like the white suit,
Right. Because
and you do see
the movie opens with him like crashing down to Earth because he had just been
yeah,
out there. Right.
yes, yeah. So there's that, and then there's a whole subplot about Lex having been the one who got him to go on this mission in the first place, which is not in the
Oh,
movie at all.
weird.
Which was kind of interesting, that it was like a Lex Luthor manipulation, but then that doesn't totally make sense if Krypton is in fact there are still remnants there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a weird combination. But
Yeah.
I still love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like in spite of its flaws, which I get, I still feel like it's just a really good movie, and I hope that someday people. I don't know what happened with Superman Returns because when it first came out, I feel like the initial reactions were good and pretty strong overall, and then like as sequel talk sort of stretched out, the tides kind of seemed to turn against it. At least that's my memory. Do you remember something simply or similar?
I remember. No, I remember kind of like mixed reviews.
Yeah.
And like it not blowing up the box office, and then like I remember going into it and coming out of it not happy, and it
Really?
just I felt like it was kind of a I don't know, not a damp squib, but just like it kind of left no impression. Like it came out and then 2006 was kind of a rough year for films. This wasn't even the only Superman movie. You also got to see Hollywoodland that year,
That's
that
right.
summer.
Yeah, I did see that. I don't know. I just think Brandon Routh is a great Superman, and I wish that we would have had a sequel to Superman Returns to see like what the next step would have been, like setting up this whole new Krypton arc. Because that's another thing. The language in the script is very clear that the Kryptonian island that gets shoved into space is like everybody just calls it as New Krypton. Like that's just what it's referred to in the script. So the script also lays out more for like potential sequel stuff, which I would have really liked to have seen, but I just feel like it highlights Superman's goodness in a way that nothing recently has, So
well,
I don't know. I hope one of these days. Yeah.
You say that. I was thinking about this because I just finished season 2 of Supergirl, and I think the people making Superman movies have a weird sexist take on him that they don't even understand, because you watch stuff like Supergirl or the new Wonder Woman movie, and these are characters that are like not just willing to punch the problem away, and like Wonder Woman is like convincing people to like forgive and all this stuff, and like this is stuff that Superman is also known to do, but I feel like because he's a male character, the people making the movies feel like he's not allowed to be. He's not the character that can walk up to a villain with his arms open. He's always walking up to somebody with red glowing eyes, and I feel like that's like they feel like, okay, well Supergirl and Wonder Woman, of course they're women, so of course they're gonna stop a war with love. But like well, Superman is also going to try to convince you to be the better part of you and everything. And I feel like finishing Supergirl season 2 and Wonder Woman 1984, like they have like, I guess it's just Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman seems to have a lot of the attributes in these movies that Superman should also be having, and they just seem afraid to give him.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just kind of this like, well, we can't give the tough male characters. He's got red eyes. So anyways,
I just think, I mean, I'm sure you're right that that's a factor. I also feel like with the Zack Snyder stuff, he always had like a Dark Knight Returns scenario in his head. And so for that to happen, you need a Superman that's portrayed in more of an ominous light. You need that to tell that story. And I just don't think that serves it well. Again, I do really like Tyler Hoechlin, who plays Superman.
He was on Supergirl season 2. Like he was in the first ones, but then they brought him back for the because I just finished Supergirl season 2 like 2 days ago. It's funny they have him. I was saying all this stuff, but like they have him getting controlled by Mon-El's mom at the end. Oh yeah, and so Supergirl and him kind of have this fight. It's actually like a pretty impressive fight. Actually, like a lot of the action at the end of Supergirl season 2 was pretty impressive. And you're right. He's such a like cool Superman. Like he feels classic. I mean, he tells Supergirl, he's like, like you beat me. It's fair. You're the champion of Earth, and he's not like, oh, I can't believe I lost to my cousin and all that. It's just
and what he manages to do, I feel like, is make Superman likable in a way that I don't even think like the Christopher Reeve Superman is all that likable. No, like I wouldn't want to hang out with that Superman, but likable. I would with this.
He's likable, but at the same time, you can tell that he's been through stuff, because like everybody else is kind of like, oh, they don't really know how to interact with him. So this is a guy who's fought Zod before and stuff.
I'm very cautiously optimistic about Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about it.
That's part of the reason I want to catch up with all the CW stuff, just so I can watch the Superman Lois show. That's what I feel like I've been waiting for, like a marquee, like the Batman or Superman show that has one of them in them.
I really enjoyed Batwoman season 1, and I'm excited about the changes they have for season 2. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic.
My overall review of Supergirl season 2 is that it was very good. I liked it a lot. It doesn't have that kind of like weird retro 90s feel that the first season had, which might have been because the first season had a lot of Calissa Flockhart and was on CBS.
Well, I think I was gonna say, I think the
Yeah.
CBS mindset was
But
different too.
Supergirl season 2 was cool. It had, I mean, there was a scene where it was just Terry Hatcher, Linda Carter, and Calissa Flockhart all just talking to each
Yeah,
other, and it was like, what a strange
pretty
collection
good.
of actresses we've put together for this
Yep,
scene.
yep.
It had, I really liked Chris Wood this season. And it just kind of felt like in the same way I liked Arrow season 2. Like they're able to just kind of let loose. They're able to have a bunch of other characters and kind of fill out the world a little bit. So I liked it. But with Arrow, after Arrow season 2, I had a hard time until Arrow season 5. So I'm hoping it's not the case with
Yeah,
Supergirl. I'm hoping I can get into season 3. I just started the
Supergirl
first
lost
episode.
me pretty hard.
Oh,
I tried. I really tried with Supergirl because I love that character,
right.
but I'm interested to see how your version of the journey goes
We'll
here.
see.
I mean, while we're sticking with Superman, let's make it a hat trick. I've got one more here. Steel, Forging a Hero by Louise Simonson and Jog
This is from the
Donovan.
90s?
It is from the 90s.
I mean, I guess
yeah.
that makes sense. It's Steel.
Yeah. This is actually a pretty long-running series,
Mhm.
but only this first volume was ever collected. A lot of it's on the app. Um, it's it's a little like it's still finding its place in this first volume here. Like we start with the Reign of the Superman issue where Steel is introduced, which was cool. And I had that. I had all of those, like the different covers, and like I was really into that when it happened. So that was kind of a nice blast from the past because I'd read that a million times as a kid. So I liked revisiting that. The story is all like this is all feels like kind of setup. It's prelude for the Steel series. So you don't really get into much here, and it's interrupted by 2 or 3 crossovers.
Oh.
So and yes, I am wearing a Superman shirt right now.
Okay. I couldn't tell. I was willing to bet.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Uh,
not even on purpose
yeah.
actually. So, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this isn't like collected on the app or anything either?
It is. No, it is on the app.
Oh,
It is
okay.
on the app. It seems a little spotty here and there where
Mhm.
with some issues are missing. But like I said, the worst part was that it was like several of the issues
Mhm.
were like Worlds Collide or
Mhm.
some of those other big crossovers, and it just
Yeah.
kind of,
Well, that happened with the last New Mutants I just read. The one where it's like Secret Wars 2, The Mutant Massacre.
Oh, yeah.
And just
Yeah.
like you get to this stuff and it's like you can't right from there.
My
So many volume 1s do that.
the app makes life so much simpler because I was
Yeah.
frustrated for years and years about DC's policy with collecting things. It just
Mhm.
doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
what they do. Like
Yeah.
collect storylines. I just don't understand. But anyway.
Yeah.
So Steel, Forging a Hero.
The Marvel app is so spotty when it comes to complete series. Like I'm reading New
Mm-hmm.
Mutants, and like technically in a perfect world, after I finish New Mutants, I would carry over to X Force. But they
Okay.
just finished putting all the New Mutants up there, and now X Force has like 20 something issues missing or something, and it's just like why? Why John? I just don't understand why they can't just press like enter and all the comics are up there. I mean, I imagine it's
Mhm.
like a bunch of interns just scanning the comic books and making them fit
Yeah.
and everything. But like, okay, make it happen faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's so frustrating. And since the coronavirus and quarantine and stuff, I feel like it's really slowed down with the extra stuff. Like, they'll just put like, oh, okay, we don't have 100 issues of this Ghost Rider series. Here's 7.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks. What is this?
Yeah.
It is like your quarter bin. It's like you just have to go and like
True.
read issues that you just can
That's true.
find. So I guess they're trying to give you the authentic kid with no money experience on the app.
Yeah.
So Steel. So are you gonna keep reading this on, or are you just gonna?
I don't know. It ends on at least this collected volume here ends with this question of whether or not something is happening where the armor is growing like a consciousness, or is Steel a metahuman? So that's like
okay.
that's the question, and I was actually way less interested in that. When that stuff started, I was kind of like, no thanks, I don't need that storyline. So probably not, but I might check in again. Who knows?
Nick, here's a comic that I read that you read that your wife read.
Oh, okay.
Or is reading. Your wife is reading right now, according to Goodreads.
Vision?
Yeah, Vision.
You talking about Vision?
I'm talking.
No,
I'm
she
talking
finished
about the
it.
Vision.
We all finished it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. I checked. I have only read the first volume of that Scarlet Witch series, and
Okay.
it's like there's 3 volumes of it. I read the first part because previously on X-Men did a spotlight on Scarlet Witch, and I wanted to like figure out like where is she now, because they have basically like she's not a mutant, she's not Magneto's daughter. She's just magic and she's a witch. And I'm like, okay, well, guess whose interest in the Scarlet Witch just dropped? And yeah, now, but we were talking about this last week. This is basically me realizing I had to read Vision before the show, and I think that's the same reason you picked it up. Because
well,
WandaVision
in the
comes out
chat
this week.
Yeah, in the chat last week when someone asked the question about whether or not I had homework for the show, I was like, "Oh, geez, yes, I do. Thanks for asking."
Yeah. So this is 12
this
issues by Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walta.
Yeah, it's collected either in 2 volumes or in a massive director's cut version of it.
Yeah.
And the director's cut label is kind of misleading because it doesn't change the story at all. It just has tons and tons of special features.
Okay.
In it. That's what makes the difference.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I read this just like the 12 issues through. So kind
me
of
too.
like in one sitting. I think just yesterday I read this. I feel I've read more Tom King than you, right?
Probably.
I mean, you gave up on his Batman run, or you didn't. Yeah. Right?
Well, I don't think I gave up. I just, moved away from it.
It's weird. I was thinking of this is probably more comparable to his Mr. Miracle run than Sheriff of Baghdad or his Batman stuff, or even I guess you could kind of compare it to Heroes and Crisis, but that was pretty sloppy. I guess I compare it to Mr. Miracle because it's kind of dealing with like depression and identity and all that stuff in the same way that did, except Mr. Miracle was protected by being in this kind of off continuity strange verse where you're like, oh, this isn't main DC, but it could be, and everything, whereas this one is very much just like in continuity. It uses Marvel continuity to inform him and his issues. So it's funny. This isn't the I don't know. What did you think?
I loved it. I 5-starred it. I thought it was great. I didn't really go in with any preconceptions about what it would be. I didn't know it at all. And so I was just kind of tossed right into it. And I did sort of break it up in my reading. I read some things in between. Like I read the first volume and then I moved on to something else. But the start I thought was really interesting. And then when we get to the second half, when you're seeing all of these threads sort of come back together and how it's going to play out, it definitely went in a direction that I didn't anticipate. And I thought it was dark, certainly. But I also thought it was just like really compelling and unlike anything that I'd really read in comics. So, that's typically, usually I think that's a good mark that they found something new to do.
Well, as somebody who's read quite a bit of comics, Nick, it's very hard to surprise me.
Sure. Yeah.
This really feels like What If American Beauty, but the Vision. And yeah, he's basically, it just starts like he's made a family. He's made a wife and 2 kids, and he's trying to live like that.
And a dog.
Eventually. And it's basically like, what if he was trying to live that like nuclear family kind of 1950s look, but also he's the Vision. He's got a lot of problems, and he has a toxic ex-wife. Listen, I say a toxic ex-wife. I think I've realized there are a lot of people who think Scarlet Witch hasn't done anything wrong, and if she has, she's made up for it. I'm not necessarily somebody. I feel like Scarlet Witch, she's kind of like Cyclops, and that like after a while, I'm like, I don't ever, this character has so much like damaged goods. They're just I don't know what to do with them anymore.
I was glad that I had my wife there, like while I was reading it, because I was not familiar with the Scarlet Witch's backstory. Like when Scarlet Witch shows up with the kids and everything, I was like, what the heck? So it was nice that
you should
my wife
listen
could
to
explain
previously on X-Men Character Spotlight Scarlet Witch.
No, I did, and I had a vague memory of her like creating kids, but I couldn't really figure out the whole story. Also, this spoiled something in the Runaways series for me, because the Victor character has just shown up in the Runaways series. Oh
yeah, like Victor shows up volume 2 of Runaways.
Well, I mean in the television series.
Yes.
So Victor shows up, but he's still a mysterious character. You don't know who he is or who he's connected
Oh,
to.
okay.
And so
Yeah.
this kind of, I was like, oh, okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, in he's a Runaways character.
Yeah,
Brian K. Vaughan, when he did Volume 2, introduced him.
yeah.
Yeah, he's in here as well. Yeah, it's very good. Part of me wishes maybe it wasn't in continuity. So
I guess I still kind of look at it as not. I mean, I know it's pulling in like some very specific things, but to me, it still felt like kind of its own deal.
yeah,
That didn't bother me so much.
yeah. I don't know. I wasn't up to. I didn't know exactly where he was at the beginning of this whole like everything's been rebooted kind of thing. That I wasn't there. Yeah, it gets dark. It gets crazy. What's her name? Virginia. His wife Virginia.
Yeah,
Anytime you just see her sitting alone quietly, like, oh no.
yeah,
Oh
yep,
jeez.
yep,
I like the art. The art gives all the visions,
yeah,
like these kind of innocent white eyes that I don't know. There's an innocence to them, but there's also
yeah,
kind of a what's going on
yeah.
to it.
Yeah,
So
it balances a really
yeah,
fine line, and I think having that sort of 1950s aesthetic to it really adds to that well.
yeah. Tom King, he can be so he's never not interesting, but sometimes he's not fun or great to read. So I liked reading this.
Yeah,
I
I do too.
probably I don't know. I maybe enjoyed this more than like getting to the end of Mr. Miracle, but Mr. Miracle was a strange read. So I don't know if you'd
Mm,
like it or not. It's
okay,
it's not the same thing, but it's also similar. And it's 12
okay,
issues. So
huh? All
and you've
right,
just
well
read
maybe.
all that Jack Kirby stuff.
I
So
know. Yeah,
you might actually get more from it. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
This was especially the second part here was part of a cascade of emotions for me because while I was reading this, I was also binging the second season of the Showtime series Kidding with
Okay.
Jim Carrey.
Uh-huh.
And that show, I mean, you remember we talked about this on the All the Book show, but the first season of that show, I checked out and my wife was away for the weekend or something, and I sat down to watch it and ended up just watching the entire first season, like just in one sitting, which is like I've never done that before. And it is such I was trying to explain it to my wife, and she was like, "This sounds like you're trying to explain a dream," and that's what it feels like because the series always kind of keeps you off center. Like you never can quite rely on any of the characters or what's going to happen. And by the end of it, I wasn't even sure like what I wanted to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in a lot of ways the second season is stronger. And the basic premise is a Mr. Rogers-esque type TV guy. His family's in a car accident and one of his children dies, and it's sort of him processing that. And that's really the arc of both seasons is the family kind of processing that. But it's kind of like that's more subtext than what they're talking about. So by the end of this, like it is a solid ending for everybody, but it really just left me like emotionally, I don't know, like distraught, just feeling very weird. And so I was like, I'm just gonna like chill and read some comic books. And so
And
I
then you read
finished
the
The
Vision.
Vision, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
So those two back to back, I wouldn't recommend. So as a palate cleanser,
Mm-hmm.
coming off of last week's conversation, when I read that Mattel Super Friends, some of the comments we got on YouTube, on Jeremiah, one of the commenters on there, was
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Super Friends comic from the 70s, which
Right.
I've only read the scattered single issues that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reading what's collected in Showcase Super Friends Volume One,
Right.
and that gave me a sense of equilibrium
Okay, so
again
this was
because
the
that
palate
is
cleanser.
it
Vision was not the
was
palate cleanser.
no Vision just doubled down on
Yeah.
feelings of like weird unresolved
Yeah.
emotions.
You woke up, you're like, this
Um,
is not my beautiful house.
yeah,
How did I
yeah,
get
pretty
here?
much, pretty much. So Super Friends is just a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
mean, I've only read the first 5 or 6 volumes of it,
Mm-hmm.
but they do a decent job of highlighting all the different characters. You didn't really watch Super Friends, right? You didn't
No,
really care for Super
before
Friends. Okay.
my time, even
The
as a small
first
child.
the first couple of seasons, they have Wendy and Marvin and their dog, and they are not superpowered characters. They just kind of like
Yeah, they're just
pal around
groovy
with the
kids
Super
with
Friends.
bell bottoms.
And even in like 1988, I was like, these guys suck. Let's move it along, Wendy Marvin. Okay. I never minded the Wonder Twins, but the Wonder Twins were
Had
actual
powers.
like
Yeah.
superheroes.
Yeah,
Like
they
they
could
had a
turn into a
reason
bucket
for
of
being
water.
there.
Yeah.
So I was not, even as a kid, I felt like these were just like interlopers and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
interested.
Sure.
So the first couple of issues of the series were very heavily Wendy and Marvin,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like that. So I'm waiting for the Wonder Twins era to come
Okay.
along.
Does Jabberjaw ever show up?
Not yet,
He's
but there was a scene where they're going to check something out. So Robin drives Aquaman and Wendy and Marvin to this haunted house, and it was like, when has there ever been a panel that has what Robin driving the Batmobile with Aquaman in the passenger seat? Only on Super Friends, you know?
yeah.
So
Well, Aquaman lives in the ocean. He doesn't have a license.
no, he doesn't.
And if
He doesn't.
Robin probably has his learner's permit. And also, who's gonna stop the Batmobile?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey,
So
Robin,
anyway,
I
that
gotta get down to the liquor store. You mind
that
giving
was
me
my
a ride?
palate
All
cleanser.
right, Aquaman. This is the
I think
last
that's actually-
time.
I think we've gone through my whole list. Is that
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah. It's reading all these Hellblazers. It just takes so much of my reading time. I meant to
I get it.
do a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm almost done with the Chris Claremont New Mutants,
Uh-huh.
and I'm kind of excited to get to the Louis Simonson stuff.
Nice.
So, there's all that, and I want to read that Sentinel comic that I need to read. Do you have a quarter bin? Have you?
I do have a
in-
quarter
in
bin.
your
Oh, and
quarter-
actually that reminds me, because we have a connection to this quarter bin through the All the Book Show, and I had a connection to Kidding through the All the Book Show. So I was watching Kidding, and over on the other show, SoundCloud.com/allthebooks, we interviewed Mike Quinn, who worked with Henson and was the puppeteer who did Nine Nub and Return of the Jedi in the new trilogy.
Mhm.
He also is one of the puppeteers on Kidding, and so we talked about that in the interview. And when I watched the second season, I recognized his voice, and I was like, "Hey, I know that guy." So that was kind of cool. So go
Alright.
check out that interview at soundcloud.com/allthebooks.
Right.
Another interview you can check out is the one Eric and I did with Elliot S. Magan. It was a Shazam spotlight, but Elliot S. Magan is also the author of today's quarter bin, and that is Wonder Woman number 225. Written by Elliot, art by Jose Delbo. Eric and I interviewed Elliot about Shazam primarily, and we talked a little bit about Superman, and he said the F word a couple of times, and we had to bleep it for the first time in all the book show history.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
that
this
was a
is
good
Wonder
time.
Woman 1976.
Yeah.
That will be a prequel
Yeah.
to 1984 now.
I chose this one because, Wonder Woman 84 is still in the air. And when I was watching the movie and she starts lassoing lightning bolts, I was like, I remember that issue. And
Do
this
you?
is the one.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the one that I've had this like truly since I was a child. This is one of the oldest ones that I have.
Wow.
I looked at this one a million times. This cover, by the way, this is not a thing that happens. There's never like they're on a deserted island. They're not in a city. Come on.
All right. So what you're saying is this is a comic book.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so we start with Diana and Steve canoodling.
Oh,
they're interrupted.
good for them.
Diana gets a call. And this is during the time when Diana is a spy. Okay.
Kendra, well, watching 1984, I know you love Chris Pine. I know you love him. But we did have a
I do.
conversation, and it basically was, is Chris Pine handsome enough to be Gal Gadot's love interest? And Kendra felt like he's not. Kendra feels like maybe he's the least good-looking of the Chris's, and that if it was Chris Hemsworth, sure. Even Chris Evans, Chris Pratt would have to make a case for himself, and we'd hear it, but she doesn't feel like Chris Pine has the same level of attractiveness.
Huh. How did she feel about the guy whose body he was trapped in that Wonder Woman was using for her own delights? Did she think he was good enough? All right, so they're canoodling. Wonder Woman gets called into the spy agency. Steve is very upset, a little emasculated that he doesn't get a call. But apparently at this point in the comics, Steve Trevor is presumed dead, and everybody thinks he's dead. I don't know why, and I've never known why.
He knows he's presumed dead, but he's upset nobody's calling him?
Well, he just feels like she gets to go out and do this, and he has to hide in the apartment.
Oh, poor Steve
He's
Trevor.
like, I know, poor Steve Trevor. So someone named Maximus, and there's no explanation really of who this character is jamming worldwide communication. So like countries can't talk to each other. And so everybody's like, oh, war is going to break out.
Okay.
And so Wonder Woman heads off to this mountain in her invisible jet. And as she gets close to it, the compass in the invisible jet even stops working. So whatever's going on down here is affecting Amazonian technology as well. So she's like, I gotta get out of here. So she jumps out and lassos some black lightning bolts. And I don't really understand what these are because they didn't seem like they were just regular lightning bolts, but there wasn't really an explanation about what they were. So I don't know. But she's lassoing lightning bolts and kind of rides them down to the ocean. And she lands and is taken in by a bunch of people who all look like Maximus but are dressed differently. And so they take her in and they imprison her. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Steve Trevor is like, well, enough of this sitting around. I'm going to go figure this out myself. So he goes out and is following her and comes to the island. Back on Wonder Woman, they have her chained to the wall because in the early days of Wonder Woman, she's chained up in pretty much every issue.
Sure. Yeah.
And at this time, if she's chained by a man, she loses her power.
Yeah.
Which, symbolism, I guess. But since the people who chained her up are like robot duplicates, it doesn't count. So she overpowers them. Steve shows up just in time for them to like bust some skulls together. And in the course of the fight, they do something that messes with whatever technology was jamming everything in the mountain. So it's like a countdown to destruction. So Wonder Woman comes out and rescues Steve and the real Maximus with the invisible jet. And the mountain explodes. It's like this catastrophic explosion, but it ruins all the technology that was jamming global communications. Max doesn't care. It's just a tax write-off to him. So ha ha ha. But not so fast because he's going to jail. Back at Wonder Woman HQ, Wonder Woman goes into the place where Diana works and vouches for Steve. But before she can say Trevor, he says, Steve Howard. My name is Steve Howard. And the guy's like, good enough for me. You're now a spy with us. The end. So Steve got his groove back.
All right. Good for Steve Howard.
Yep.
Anywho.
Yeah, Steve Howard. And that was written by our friend Elliot S. Maggin, lover of spaghetti and Shazam.
Yeah, he does love his spaghetti.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was your quarter bin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you got on tap?
Well, I had intended to get to Jack Kirby's Blue Bolt this week, and I didn't, mostly because of the vision. So I'm going to try to get to Blue Bolt. I'm going to try to knock out that whole Scarlet Witch series before the show starts, just to kind of get a big player.
15th, right?
Yeah, 15th.
Okay.
15th. Yep. So I'm going to try to do that. Yeah. So those are my two main goals. What about you?
I want to read that Sentinel comic that I've been meaning to read since I was a kid. The boy finds a sentinel in his backyard story kind of thing.
It's just called Sentinels?
It's just called Sentinel. I feel like Brian K. Vaughan wrote it. I could be wrong, but I'll have more information next week. So I got to read that so I can talk about it as well on the Sentinel Spotlight we're doing previously on X-Men. Just more Hellblazer and hopefully more mutants. And I've got Night of the Monster Men from Detective Comics. Yeah, you know what the problem is?
I've definitely read this.
Okay.
Sentinel. I just looked it up. Yes, I did read this when it came out.
The thing that kind of slowed me down on some comics that just had me with Hellblazer and Vision is that we've been trying to not catch up, but we've been going through more of the CW shows. So we're back to watching Arrow and Flash, and then I'm back to watching Legends and Supergirl. And then when I'm done with Legends of Tomorrow, because it's a short season, that will be enough to... That will be around the same time Black Lightning season 1 starts, so I can start that, and then we're gonna do the crossover. It's just so that took a little bit of time. I should have been reading New Mutants. Instead, I watched historicals like ancient top 10. So anyway, all right. Did you see
that Roku bought all of the Quibi content?
I did. Yeah,
because there was that series that was like looking at historical events, and there was a bunch about like Marvel where they reenact like early Stan Lee stuff, and I really wanted to see that. So now I got to figure out if that's on Roku yet.
Yeah, I don't know when it gets there.
I don't either.
And I guess we'll probably both have watched WandaVision by next episode.
I would think so, yeah.
WandaVision.
Yep.
And that's it. I also keep meaning to watch the Deathstroke animated movie that they put that on HBO.
Right, written by J.M. DeMatteis.
Hey,
we also interviewed on the Audible show.
Well, you know what? I like his writing, so that should be more of a reason to do it.
I watched the first half was on CW Seed, and I watched it, but they didn't put the second half on, and I haven't finished it since it went out.
The Constantine City of Demons, they collected it as one movie and put it on So you can like get the DVD, I think, but now it's on HBO Max. So
I tried to watch the Death in the Family thing.
Mm-hmm.
The new and I did, but it's not interactive on HBO Max. So like all I watched was an abridged version of
Under the Red Hood.
Under the Red Hood with like a frame story of Batman talking to Superman. So it was just kind of like whatever. But it does have the shorts that were also written by James DeMatteis, the like Sergeant Rock and Adam Strange. There's like 3 other shorts that are included with that, which I didn't watch, but those are available.
I haven't seen Adam Strange or Sergeant Rock.
Yeah,
I don't know what the last one I watched. Catwoman?
Yeah, it's been a while.
All right. All right. Well, again, this is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. You can find more about this show and others like it at radiomeanwhile.com. You can find more episodes of Comic Book Coffee Break, past episodes of Comic Book Coffee Break, the first 29 episodes.
Yeah, milestone here, number 30.
YouTube.com/Dust vs. Tweak, or the link I just shared. And Nick, where else can people find you, Nick?
Sure. Well, right here on the Radio Meanwhile Network, I'm the co-host of 90210 Here We Go and 90210 Rewatch Podcast. We're currently in season 4.
Yeah.
And for the David A. Howe Public Library, I'm the host of How's Things, which is a podcast and radio show we do featuring a lot of interviews, including one with Jason Fry, who wrote the Last Jedi novelization, wrote a Minecraft novel, and several Star Wars books. That's coming out on the 17th, so you can keep an eye out for that.
And I guess the other 2 shows I do are previously on X-Men, where we talk about X-Men characters, movies, shows, all that stuff. We're talking about the Sentinels next episode. We just talked about 2 episodes of the animated series. And then 90s Music's Got Me Like, where me and Kendra look at one song from the 90s every episode. Today we're talking about You Oughta Know by Alanis Morissette, and then... It's Kendra. Oh, it's a poll. So the next song after that will be the Blue song. Blue Abadi Abadi.
Okay. Oh. All right.
Yeah, it's from the 90s. It beat the
good
poll.
Good times.
So won the poll.
All right.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. See you next week.
Cheers.